afternoon, good evening, and good night, everyone. Welcome to KerbSide Collections with me, Adam Ritchie, a podcast about physical media collectors for physical media collectors. Join me as I burrow into the psyche of this episode's avid collector, my good friend, Shane Conto. Welcome to the show, Shane. How are you?
Thank you, Adam. I am very honored to be on your show as you come on to a lot of mine. So
Yeah.
it's fun being on the other end of this, doing fine and ready to talk about some movies that are engulfing me in my office.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And I can see them. Your listeners can't see them, but it's a very impressive collection. Me and Shane go way back. We write for the same website. And as Shane mentioned, I guest a lot on his shows, which I'll get him to plug later because you definitely should be checking them out because Shane does a lot of shit and Shane has about 48 hours in his day. If you get to find out who he is, he does a
Do
lot.
I have a time turner? You'll never know.
I think Shane does have a Tom turn. He's got something going on. He's very, very efficient. Must be very well organized. Anyway, not like me. So, tell our listeners what part of the world are you from?
So I am from New Jersey in the United States. I've been born, raised, and will probably die in New Jersey. So I'm a Jersey boy through and through.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, okay. So we might as well get stuck into the questions. Yeah, if you're ready to go.
Let's do
So
this.
from the start, why do you collect physical movies with so many streaming options that are out there? What's your attraction to having a physical copy of a movie?
So I grew up having VHS tapes because, I grew up in the
Yep.
90s and that was the best option. Horrible option because those tapes are not very durable sometimes.
No.
But I remember when DVDs came out in the early 2000s and being like, "Oh, these take up less space." And a bunch of these.
Yeah.
Why do I continue to have physical media today? Because I don't trust streaming services
Yeah.
at this
Nice
point
answer.
because you never know when they're going to come in and out. And I get the argument against, like, well, your discs are going to die at some point. I'm like, sure, okay. But also,
That's not true though.
I
I do not believe that. I've had discs for 15, 16 years. They're fine. Like they're nothing wrong with them.
it's one of those kinds of things where it's just like because the film industry is so cutthroat at this point, you never
Mhm.
know when you're going to have something available. And
Mm.
it's nice for me to be able to, like, hey, I feel like watching this movie. I could just walk upstairs, grab it from my shelf, and put it in. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the internet working either because
Yes,
at
that's right.
least especially in my area, in my neighborhood, they only support one option. So
Mm.
like I there's very few options for internet because generally it's a utility and I can get into the economics of that. But in my neighborhood, they won't even support FiOS for Verizon. So I have to have Xfinity, which is Comcast, and it
Right.
sucks. There's days that like
Um,
it's windy and then
yes,
internet goes out. And I'm like,
mate.
are
I have
you
that here.
kidding me?
Yeah.
And it feels like a nice power move to be able like, oh well, and walk upstairs and go grab a DVD and just pop it in and I can watch it whenever the hell I want. And, you know, the DVDs come with a lot of great special features and stuff. And I know they've been expanding that on streaming too, but it's
Little
a
bit.
wonderful little surprise when you buy a movie and it's like you get bonus movies. Like you might have a short film
Yes.
from this director from
Yeah.
early on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I've been doing this for probably 22 years now. And it's
Mm.
interesting because, like, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a collector in the sense that, like, I don't just buy movies to buy them. Like,
Okay.
I've watched every single one of these movies and would watch any of them at any given moment because
That's
I literally
interesting.
just randomly pick what I watch. So it could be any of them at any given time. And it's one of those kinds of things where I just like having them, being able to watch them.
Mm.
And people are like, do you watch them?" I'm like, "Yeah, what else do you do with movies?"
I get that a question. I get that question a lot too. It's like, do you watch them all? I'm like, well, I haven't watched them all, but I'm planning to watch them all. That's why I own them. I don't. I'm
Mhm.
I'm I'm kind of similar. I do collect some things because I like to complete a collection of a certain thing. Like with my Pixar
Yeah.
collection, for example, I don't love every Pixar movie, but I like 22 out of the 25, so I probably
Mm,
may get the other three at some point. I don't. I think The Good Dinosaur is one of them. I don't. I can't remember the other two, to be honest, that I don't have. But
mhm.
yeah, so I mean, what are your? Yeah, it's. I mean, looking behind you, so do you not buy a movie that you haven't seen? You don't buy blindly. Do you buy on reputation of them? You have to have seen it
Correct.
first, do you?
Yes. And
No, wow.
I do, yeah, I don't buy anything, especially at this point. I don't buy anything if I haven't seen it.
Hmm.
And I'm cheap. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna buy anything. There's very, very few films that I'll buy on physical media more than $10. Like,
Wow.
I'll wait things out, and, like, I'll
Wow.
wait for Black Friday and see if there's, like,
Yeah.
nice deals and stuff like that. Do I spend a lot of money on Black Friday?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So,
you do have that privilege being in America. In Australia, like, and especially the
yes.
conversations that I've had already, which will be shows later down the track, it's harder to do that in Australia because we
Mm,
do have limited releases. So there is
yeah,
a sense of FOMO for collectors that some titles sit in the shelf for years, but is already titles that will come out and they're gone within 3 weeks and they're near impossible
mm,
to get. So we kind of have to buy when we do. Otherwise, we have to import. So, I mean, that's interesting that you, well, say that you're cheap, but do you, I guess that leads me on, would you prefer to buy the 4K version of a movie or a DVD, or is it completely dependent on the price?
honestly, price is becoming less of an issue because it's more of what's available. So, like, if there's a 4K version of a film, I'm probably gonna buy that,
Yeah.
and you know, my cheats. Like I bought Blade Runner 2049 on 4K Steelbook the second that movie came out
Yeah.
because I wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
I will be buying Furiosa on 4K Blu-ray. I might have to wait to see if they release a new collection instead though, because I do have
Yeah,
the
they may
high
do.
octane
Mm.
collection for Mad Max.
Can
I'll
you
buy
believe?
things.
Sorry, oh, I'm just
Yeah,
sorry to butt in, but can you believe that Mad Max films are Australian films? We only just got the release of the very first Mad Max on 4K. We've had the other two, and well, and plus Fury Road. We don't even have a box set of it yet, which is weird,
that's ridiculous.
mate. This is Australia. It's
Thanks, Warner
very
Brothers.
frustrating. It's very frustrating. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there. You were talking about, yeah,
No.
the moving on to DVDs.
Well, no, so like some films only get released on DVD if they're
Mm,
small enough,
mm.
and they're not going to get like the Blu-ray or 4K, and I'll still buy them.
Yeah.
Uh, my my secret is for years since I went away to college like 14 years ago, I found Princeton Record Exchange in Princeton, New Jersey, which was like 10 minutes down the road from my college. And honestly, well, I still work there, so like 10 minutes from work, where they
Mhm.
sell not as much anymore, but they still have an insanely large collection of used physical
Oh, okay.
media.
Nice.
Because like they are the largest record store on the East Coast of the United States, but they also have a bunch of movies. So like the last time I went there, I
Mm.
went through their discount classic section and I bought like 10 movies for $26
Oh, wow.
because they're 4.99 or less. They're either 1.99, 2.99, 3.99, 4.99. Obviously,
Yep.
they're going to be DVDs. And
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I bought a whole bunch of John Ford movies because I'm gonna be watching them anyway. And it was nice for my series that I'm doing on my one show for my channel. But it's the kind of thing
Mm.
where I have those specific films that I'll buy right away because I want to rewatch them. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna buy hundreds of beavers the second that comes out because
I've got that
I
pre-ordered.
enjoyed
It's
that
coming
so
from the
much.
UK right now.
Yeah, nice. It's such a fun movie, but I'm at the point now where I have so many movies to watch and all the
Yeah.
shows that I do. And a lot of the time, my watching habits are driven by my podcasts and my shows now. And generally, if I wake up on a day and I'm gonna watch a movie, the first movie I'm gonna watch is a new release because of my channel.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a rush to buy physical media movies at this point. I've honestly bought a lot less over the past couple of years than I used to, but I
Okay.
still have like over 2,000 movies at this point. So like good for now.
Yeah.
But at some point, like either I shop on Amazon a lot and
Yep.
have an
Yep.
Amazon card, I get cash back. And what do I
Oh,
usually
right.
spend my cash back on?
Obviously,
Movies.
movie. I
So
didn't know that. I did not know that was a thing to get cash back. We don't. I don't think that's definitely not an Australian thing because they would owe me a shit ton of money if there was.
Amazon owes me, gives me a shit ton of money, so I love it.
Wow,
And yeah,
I love
they love it because then I just pump it right to Amazon and buy more
that.
movies. So there you go.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. So, I mean, leading on to that, then, so you said you have over 2,000 movies in your collection. I think the last time I asked you that, maybe a year and a half ago, you had about 1,200, and you're buying less. Maybe you said 1,200. Maybe that's me making that up. I
So
don't know.
I have 2018 movies
Right,
exactly.
and
I have a spreadsheet. So
yeah, that was leading on to that question. You catalog them.
yes, so all of these that are sitting behind me are alphabetical, by
Yep.
title, which is fun. 'Cause then
Hmm.
I'm like, I bought a new movie. It's an
Yeah,
A. And
you
I'm like,
got to squeeze it
crap.
in.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this one's a Y. Thank God. This is gonna take
Yeah.
me 2 seconds. But no, I have it in a spreadsheet, alphabetical. And since I think it was June 2016, I decided I was gonna start cataloging when I watch them. So I
Hmm.
do have the dates in the cells next to each film, how
Oh,
many
okay.
when I've watched them.
Right. I see. That's why I use
And I
my
guess
letterbox for
that's
that. You use your
yep.
letterbox just for new movies. Yeah, but I use mine
Yes.
just to log because I have no memory and it's good to go back and like recently I watched The Fugitive. I'm like, I watched this, felt like I watched this like 6 months ago, but I'm watching it again. It was 3 years ago, almost to the day, and it felt like not
There
that
you
long
go.
at all. So yeah, it's well, time flies when you're watching 600 movies a year at least. It's yeah, it's full on. So
Mhm.
obviously I can see behind you that you don't organize yours. I mean, some people that I've spoken to, and I know me, I sort my Blu-rays. Everything's alphabetical, but I have my Blu-rays separated from my
Mhm.
4Ks. My DVDs, which I don't have a lot of anymore because I've upgraded and I kind of refuse to buy DVD. I kind of stashed away in a cupboard where, because they're older movies that I should watch, but
Yeah,
yeah. So you just have yours, regardless of the format, they're just on the shelves and in alphabetical
correct.
order.
Yeah, because for me, it's generally like, what do I have it on? Doesn't really matter to me.
Okay.
I am getting to the point though where I've watched some, like I just had to do this. I went in to go put in my cabinet of Dr. Caligari to rewatch last week, and
Yep.
the DVD didn't work anymore.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Oh,
I bought a 4K, nice
yeah.
German looking one too.
Yeah.
So
I have that ready to buy.
I think two of the films that I watched during my Scorsese series were my Casino and Gangs of New York DVDs and realized
Hmm.
these are looking old and
Yeah. Yeah.
don't run the best on my 4K TV and my 4K player. So I
Yeah.
did put upgrading them on my what films I want to buy are all on the Amazon list
On a
that I
wish
have.
list. Yeah.
So I have a new release list and other movie list.
Okay.
So to keep those two separate because the other releases, so like not the new ones, I do send to people for like my mother-in-law.
And stuff.
I'll share that with her and she buys my birthday and Christmas gifts based off of that list,
Yeah.
which
Right.
appreciated Sue, so thank you. But
So,
so yes, if she's listening, because she actually does check out some
oh,
of our
nice.
stuff, especially if my
Okay.
wife's on. She
Okay.
enjoys
Yep.
listening
Yep.
to
Yep.
two of us banter together. The new release one's mostly for me. And if I
Mm.
notice that a film's not going down in price, because
Yeah.
smaller films, like if they're indie stuff, they might not go
No,
down with
they
like your
don't.
normal pricing drop. Those are the
Hmm.
ones that I wait until I have cash back and I will prioritize buying.
Nice strategizing. Yeah, that's a question I would have later on, but you've answered that. That's cool. Yeah, how you strategize your buying. That's interesting because we all do it our own different way. Like, I mean, for me,
Mm,
I honestly I look at Amazon Australia doesn't have every title, so I do have wish lists, but I don't have everything I want to get on that wish list. I
yeah.
have a UK website where I have a wish list, but again, that doesn't have everything either, and I just keep stuff in the cart. But yeah, it's tougher being out here and
Mhm.
with a bad memory. I just kind of stuff pops up in my head. Like I just put stuff in my wish list, all the Jello box sets, and I don't know if you know
Nice.
those Jello box sets, but that's they're getting a bit lower, and I kind of want to get them before they're sold out. But
Mm.
yeah, that's it's interesting because I've got to space out my purchasing too because I do the pay in four type of thing and through PayPal and that. So I've got to wait for a few of those to finish because I normally have 3 or 4 of those running at a time. So I've got to wait for a couple to
No,
finish. I've I've increased my willpower because I could just go do it, but I'm just like, I'm going to increase my willpower and it keeps cash flow better. And anyway, enough about me. This isn't about me, this show.
it
So
happens. Trust me. Hosting a
yeah,
lot of shows.
yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to relate to everything that everyone else does. That's
Yeah.
part of my fascination with other people's collections. It's really interesting stuff for me because I am a bit of a nerd, obviously. Do you have anything in your collection
Mhm.
that you're proud of owning? That anything that you have on display, or is it just literally stacked in the shelf in that order and nothing you're showing off like a trophy?
So I'm looking
But
off to the distance here because I do have a little strange shelving unit that's like a squared tower. I have
okay.
like a bunch of like little trinkets and stuff like that. I also have all
Hmm.
of my pop vinyls on there, including my Marley and Marley from Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh,
Love
nice.
those.
But,
And like I have my even though I bought the Lord of the Rings extended edition 4K box, I still kept like the DVD and Blu-ray ones because
yeah.
they keep getting worse. Like to look at, like
Oh,
those DVD ones were gorgeous. The
right.
green, red, and blue boxes for Fellowship, Two Towers, and
Hmm.
Return of the King. Those were my first Amazon purchase when I made my Amazon account my
Ah,
freshman year of college.
fair
And
enough.
when they arrived, I stayed up all night and watched them to figure out what scenes they added in.
Oh,
So like
wow.
that's the
That's
kind of stuff
dedication.
I did in college.
That's dedication.
Yeah. And then I have some steel books that are really cool. I love my
Hmm.
Blade Runner 2049 one because it looks so cool.
Yeah.
My Steelbook
Very lucky
4K
with
of
that.
2001: A Space Odyssey, just
Oh, wow.
chef's kiss.
Really?
It's a really cool looking one, and I'll show you after we're done recording because if I take it
Hmm.
out now, it's not going to benefit the audience anyway.
No, no,
They can't
no.
see it. And my Bond collection
Oh,
is
yep.
like I've been watching James Bond movies since I was 7, and I
Yeah,
watched
same.
all of them
Do you? Okay.
whenever it was. I think it was Bond month on Spike TV. I think it was.
Okay.
I would watch
Yeah.
them over and over and over again, and they were my first collection. Them and Disney tapes were my first VHS collections.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think
like
a lot of people had the Disney tapes. Yeah.
that's me in a nutshell. I I don't remember if I kept it. I don't think I did. I used to have my growing collection when I was younger happened because my mom would buy me collections. Like I distinctly
Hmm.
remember her buying me Star Wars, the original trilogy. They were the
Oh.
special editions because
Oh, I was gonna
I'm
say,
not
do you have the?
here's something I will admit. I've never watched the original versions of Star Wars because by the
Oh,
time
okay.
I was getting physical media, George
Hmm.
Lucas was like, "No, you'll buy my
He's
special
fucking with them
editions."
already. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very messed with them. And then like I had Indiana Jones. I had the Rocky 5 movie set when Rocky was, still five
Oh, yeah.
movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and The Godfather. My
Ah,
Godfather
yes.
trilogy box DVD was so great. And I watched them when I was 10 because my grandfather was like, "This is your culture. You're gonna watch this because I'm an Italian American from New Jersey."
It's like he
And then my
wanted you to be a
criterion
gangster.
he didn't want me to, but it's like there's not a lot of Italian movies about Italian Americans that aren't about
Mm.
gangsters. So like this is
Rep
we can claim
representation.
arguably the greatest movie of all time. It's
Yeah.
us. So
Yep, yep.
here you go, Francis Ford Coppola. I'll be watching the Megalopolis no matter how shitty, weird,
Yeah.
or whatever the hell it is.
Same. That's the
Um,
most intriguing movie of the year. I don't care how bad it is, but it looks weird, great weird, in a good weird, like Annette, another Adam Driver movie like that. A really good weird.
yeah.
Yeah. And you said your
That's
Criterions.
actually speaking of Adam Driver weird movies. Annette is definitely a movie that I want to buy on physical media, but
I have the
it's not
Blu-ray, but
readily
yeah.
available in the
Ah.
US
Oh, really?
because it was an Amazon movie here, and they're just like
Oh, they're keeping it.
so they're little weird about that. That's the thing.
Right.
It makes me sad when like really great movies wind up on Netflix because they're not going to sell it on physical media. But
And
if that's on Criterion,
unless it's
because
in
I have The
Criterion, yeah.
Irishman or have a Marriage Story. So like my Criterion discs are
Yeah.
definitely some of my favorite. Like my Stagecoach one has some
Oh
older
yeah.
John Ford movies on it too, which is pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the Criterion ones are always cool because you never know you might get bonus movies with your purchase.
You
So
certainly, I mean, I remember I certainly did with His Girl Friday with the front page. They put the
yep,
original front page in that.
yep.
I don't have many, obviously, as you know, I wouldn't have many Criterions because their Criterion they don't care about Australia. And if you can get them, they're expensive as fucking shit. That's nuts out here. So you've got to wait a long time to get those on. I think I paid, oh
Mm,
mate, I think I paid something stupid for Blowout. I'm not going to say it out loud how much I paid for that, but
that's a cool one too. Has like
yeah,
a really cool cover and everything.
but don't, yeah,
That's a film. That's a film that I watched off my watch list in the past 2 years, where I'm just like, damn, like
yeah.
this is a really, really good movie.
Blowout is one of the most underseen movies of all time. Like everyone needs to be on it. De Palma and Travolta.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's such a great movie. I'm keen to see that
Yeah, I'm
again.
looking over. I have my Scorsese shorts
Oh
Criterion,
yes,
which
yeah.
is cool because it has a bunch of his short films, and including Italian American, which is one of my favorite documentaries because that hits. Like being an Italian American from New Jersey, like all of it,
Hmm.
it's like I felt like I'm watching my grandparents talking about
Really?
them
Yeah.
growing up and stuff like that. It's
Wow.
so authentic.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So those are probably the ones that like really stand out to me. Some of my steel books, some of my collections, and then
Yep.
Criterion.
But that's a lot. I mean, that's a good out of 2,000 movies. That's a really good selection. Are you into special features at all? Do you watch the special features much on a disc, or are you really more about the
I'll
movie?
admit that I could probably do a better job. There's certain
Hmm.
movies that I have that I've watched a lot of special features. This is going to sound silly, but probably the one that I've watched the most special features on, outside of the Lord of the Rings ones,
Hmm.
because I've watched those behind the scenes documentaries are so cool, is Monty Python and the Holy
Oh,
Grail,
really?
because they have some of the funniest shit on those special features
I'll
on the
have to check
DVD
that
that I
out.
have.
I own that Blu-ray,
They
so
have,
I hope there's some specials on there.
I hope they have the, there's a ministry video on how to properly prepare your coconuts. And
Okay.
it's Michael Palin
Yeah.
coconuts. And it's like the funniest thing is just how dry it is. And he's just like, and then you pull them together and apart together and apart together and apart and together. And you don't know when he's gonna together and going. The it's just the comedic timing on it's hilarious. So I've
Yeah,
watched
that's
that
cool.
video. I used to show that to people. They're just like, this is so
Really?
funny. Yeah, and early and this made me sad when Marvel stopped doing their shorts because I
Mm.
used to buy their Blu-rays just to get their shorts. Why did I give a
Uh,
shit about buying Thor: The Dark World on Blu-ray? Because they had All Hail the King short film with Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery in prison being it shows him being kidnapped from prison
you're telling me
by the
something new here.
Mandarin.
I didn't know they had the short films.
So they had some of them were kind of like whatever. Like one of them explained that cameo of Tony Stark in Incredible Hulk. So like they had a little backstory for them, like, okay, whatever. But
Okay.
All Hail the King is the most interesting one because it's Ben Kingsley in full character as Trevor
Yeah,
Slattery
that'd be
bridging
cool.
that gap between Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi. And
Hmm.
it's so funny. They show him they show him a video. It's Scoot McNeary is
Oh, right.
playing this journalist interviewing him in prison. And he shows him this video of this show he used to be on, which looked like some rip off of Miami Vice.
All right.
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
And
right.
then there's some great moments because like he's beloved in the same prison as they put Trevor Slattery, Justin Hammer, and Scott Lang were all in the same prison. they even have Sam Rockwell make a cameo
Wow.
in this little short film. He's like, Slattery looks like if Bin Laden and Benny Hill had a baby. Just like,
Yeah, that's a good description, to be honest.
and it's so funny. It's like, Mr. Slattery, can you do it? He's like, okay, okay, okay. And he takes his glasses out and slowly turns around, like, you'll never see me coming. And like everybody like
Wow.
freaks out because they love him doing his Mandarin. It's a fun short, and it actually paid off, which shocked
Yeah.
the hell out of me when I saw Shang-Chi and he popped up, and I'm like, that short film meant something.
Yeah.
The last short films they did were Taika's ones where Thor
Wow.
during Civil War is
Yep.
hanging out with his flatmate,
Right. Okay. I'm gonna have to check them out.
which
I'm
those
gonna
are
have to break
funny.
out my discs of those and have a look. Because I
Yeah,
don't think I've
because the
ever.
Blu-rays and 4Ks have those shorts on them.
Yeah.
At least the Blu-rays do. So those are some of the special features I watch on things. To be honest, I need to probably take advantage of more of the special features, but
Yeah. I'm the same.
I prioritize watching movies over extra stuff on the discs.
I'm the
So,
same too. Like it's taking into time of watching the movie. I'll watch bloopers if there's bloopers on a special feature because I love bloopers sometimes more than the movie, especially if it's a bad comedy because the bloopers are generally
mm,
better. But otherwise, yeah, I don't go in for a lot of the special features. Yeah, which is again, it's sad because I'm interested in the making of film and all that
yeah.
technical stuff behind it, but I'm like, I could be just watching another movie here now, like ticking one off the watch list.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyway, how is your home setup, your media setup? Do you fuss about your quality of your home setup much? Like what type of screen do you use, or your sound setup and whatnot?
So I'm not the kind. So Christopher Nolan, if you're ever listening to this, I'm sorry. I'll
Uh-oh.
watch movies anywhere on anything.
Yeah, yeah,
To
yeah.
be honest, because like if I need to, I will watch it on my phone if I'm stuck in that situation. Like if I'm at like stuck at Pep Boys for hours waiting for my car, I will watch stuff on my phone if I
Okay.
have to. Usually I try and bring my laptop, but my home setup, because in my office here is my I had a Sanyo Roku TV before, and it's
Hmm.
right there. So it's like my
Right.
backup TV. So if like I'm in my office and I'm gonna have something on in the background. But downstairs I have an LG smart TV. My wife had an Apple TV box already
Yep. Yep.
when we
Hmm.
moved in together. So like I do have an Apple TV box, which comes in really handy when I get
Mate.
press screening links because they have
Yeah.
apps for a lot of them and it makes it
Oh,
easy to
nice.
throw it up on my TV. I love all of you out there, PR people, when you send me Vimeo links because that makes it easy. I could just cast it to my TV.
Hey, send them
Take
to me,
notes,
guys,
people.
too. I'm happy. Send them to me.
But I have a soundboard. My wife bought it for me, but my damn cats are
Oh no.
so annoying about it because anytime it's on, they just start climbing on top of it, hitting buttons, and then it doesn't work. And
Is
I'm
that
just like,
right?
what's
This,
the point of this then?
this shitheads, yeah.
So, but I love my three cats very much, even though they're a pain in my ass and won't let me use my sound bar that my wife bought me because they get really weird about certain things. So, like, if I'm on speakerphone, my
Mm,
eldest cat will like death stare me and start
wow.
meowing at me. He has bit me because to like turn it down because if certain people I'm talking to are really loud,
Wow. Sound sensitive
or if I have
cats.
a podcast too loud, they're sensitive. They're a bunch of prima donnas,
That's
all three of
amazing.
them. But my one cat, Sadie, she will not leave the soundboard alone. So I never have it on because the second I turn it on, she's climbing on top of it, clawing into it, or trying to hit the buttons, and it turns it off. So,
That's
I
fascinating.
watch it. We're so lucky because I remember when my grandfather first went out and bought like a 42-inch TV,
Mm,
flat screen, which was like the coolest thing when I was in like middle school. And I think it cost like $1,100.
yeah.
You can buy the same TV right now for like
Mm,
$299.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like
The
things
tech's
have
gone a long
evolved
way.
so much. Like I occasionally walk through a Walmart and like I see like a 65-inch smart TV. It's like buy it for $400. I'm just like, this is a mad world we live in where things
Yeah.
are so cheap. So
Dude, I can't. I
I'm the
can't.
kind of person. I will stick with something for a long time
Yep.
until it is dead.
Until it burns out. Yeah.
So at some point, I'll look into like maybe getting like a nicer TV next time. But my wife and
Mm.
I had just moved in together and we bought a TV. It was like $400. It's a
Yeah.
smart TV. It works. Is it clunky? It is. But,
Okay.
I deal with it. But it's a
4K. Yeah.
4K. It
Yeah. Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
bare minimum, it's a 4K. So I'm a 4K player. And, some of those movies just look so damn good on that
They
TV.
do. They do. My next purchase is I have to get myself an OLED. Or Sony now do the mini LEDs, which they abandoned OLED for some reason. I need to look into that a bit more. But my TV is really great. Like I have my Dolby Vision and Dolby Vision
Mm,
looks. I have a Sony now and it's fantastic. So I mean, an OLED would maybe be a little bit better, but can I justify spending two and a half, 3.5 grand on that? No, I can't. Like it's
yeah.
yeah, and that's for you. What's 2.5 grand for you at the moment? Probably $1,500 in America. So yeah, it's
Yeah. I need to, speaking of holding on to things for dear life, I need to save up for a down payment on a car.
okay.
So
Yeah,
that's my priority right now.
yeah,
Because I'm presently driving around in a 20-year-old Acura with almost 260,000 miles.
right.
So
Yeah.
so that's priority right now. That'll be my adjunct money in the fall, where that's going. So,
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Yep. Yeah, that's your bonus cash.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a new car
For
coming in a couple of months actually. Yeah, but she'll be right. She'll be right. I'll have to sell my current
Mhm.
one to help pay for that. Well,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah. So what type of player, what is your 4K player? What is it anything? Because I know in Australia, a lot of people shit themselves over a Panasonic. It's called the UB820. Everyone just raves about that. So do you care what yours is? Do you know what it is?
Really, to be honest, I probably when I bought it was like, is that does this not have shit reviews and is it
Yeah.
relatively inexpensive? Because
Yep. Yep.
that was my bar for getting it. At some point when I'm debt lower on my debt, I'll probably look into
Hmm.
getting some nicer stuff. But like
Yeah.
for me, it's functionality. If it works, I'm cheap. By generally, I'm a pretty cheap person, so like if it
Hmm.
works and I didn't have to like sell my arm for it, I'm
Yep.
happy. And it
That's fair.
works. So,
No, that's fair, man. Yeah, totally respect that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all, in my opinion. If you get to watch the movies that you love, then, but as long as you get to watch them, that's all. That's all that really counts at the end of the day. Is there anything you regret buying in your collection? Anything that you're like, probably that pisses me off? But I mean, like, did you spend too much on
so
something, or
I think just generally you get that feeling of, oh, I remember when I bought this brand new DVD when it was $30 back when DVDs were new. And you
now it's a
just like
dollar
see it's like
fifty?
this is $4 in a Walmart's bin now. And I'm just like, and
Yeah,
then your mind just keeps going with like, how much money could I have saved?
yeah, yeah.
There's a long stretch of time in my life where I was cycling through movies where I'm just like, I don't think I like this anymore. And I wish I could go back because generally I don't regret things in life. Stuff happened for a
Hmm.
reason. It took me on the path where I am now. But no, there's some times where I'm just like, why did I get rid of that? I was being an ass and being like, I don't like this movie anymore. And then sometimes you get nostalgic for it. Like,
Yeah.
case in point, when I was in college and I joined film club, I took some film classes, I started expanding my horizons, and I'm like, Van Helsing sucks. Because that was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid when that first came out. And now
Right.
I bought the 4K of it. Because you know what?
Yeah.
Sure, there's parts of it that do suck, but like I kind of want to watch Van Helsing sometimes. Which I did
Yeah.
rewatch that this year, and damn, that score hits. Still, like
I only just picked it up
yeah.
recently. It's not a film I've ever seen, but it's always something I've wanted to see, and I picked up the 4K for that very recently, like within the last 3 weeks. So it's in the long ever growing list of I need to watch that soon.
It was like that and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen were a couple of my favorite
Ah,
movies at
yep,
that
yep.
point in my life when I was like, because they came out '03 and '04, I think. So I was 12 and 13. So like 12, 13-year-old Shane was like, yeah, love them. And then early young adult Shane was just like, and I got rid of the DVDs that I had. And then
Yeah,
I'm like, why'd I do that? So like
yeah.
I've rebought them both on. Did I get League of Extraordinary Gentlemen on 4K? I don't know if it's on 4K. It probably is.
I was going to say, does that
But like I've
exist?
rewatched them as an adult. I'm like, this is the last time Sean Connery was a live
Mm,
action movie ever, and I got rid of it.
yeah, yeah,
Why? He tried that movie that didn't,
you did.
but so those kinds of things. I regret purges that I've done, but honestly, when it really came down to it, it was about space. And like
Yeah.
there's been times where like I used to so my thing used to be books. I was
Hmm.
the most avid reader that you'd ever meet when I was
Yep.
a kid through high
Hmm.
school into college, which kind of threw me off because like I didn't have as much time to sit and read books and stuff like that that I wanted to read that weren't textbooks. Damn accounting textbooks. But my the summer before my junior year of college, my grandfather, who I lived with my grandparents, my mom and my brother from when I was not even 2 years old until I was almost 21. And my grandfather and my two uncles threw us out. And it was a very traumatic time in my life. I used to still sleep in a twin size bed so I would have more space for bookshelves.
Oh, wow.
Like that was my priority.
Yeah.
Like my feet literally hung off the end of this IKEA bed, but I kept it a twin size bed because I wanted more books. But when
That's
we got
awesome,
thrown
man.
out and my mom and I moved into a two-room apartment, like I had to get rid of like 90% of my books.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of killed reading for me for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I had my movies and they took up less space.
Hmm.
And I kind of like dove headlong into that. And that's when like my collecting of movies really started ballooning. But like
Yeah.
before I had my own space like this for 6 years after college, I was sharing apartments with friends. I had roommates.
Mm.
So like I had to
Yep.
worry about the space that I had. I used to keep
Yeah.
these in bins. Like when
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
finally bought when my wife and I moved in together in 2020, I bought these racks from Amazon. These are
Ah,
$100 metal racks. They're
they're
so damn heavy.
good looking
Yeah.
shelves, though, honestly. Yeah.
The floor in my office is not level, and I found out the hard way because when I
Uh,
was putting this up, it fell on me.
oh, really? Shit.
And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was just trying to get this done, and I fell on me on the floor, and I just laid there for a couple minutes, being like reflecting, like, this would be the way I would die, though. Death by movies. Like
What a way to
Shane
go.
was crushed by that shit.
Wow.
But
That's, yeah, probably a bit of foresight,
because like
actually.
I have one other shelf here that's only like not even a third filled. But like if I filled that, I would have to get rid of stuff in my office to fit more. And that was the reason why I would purge a lot, was because I didn't have the space.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had
yeah.
very limited space, but like I regret that. Those were a
Mm,
lot of movies that I probably and unfortunately I've rebought stuff because I
yeah.
regretted. And so
Yep.
that's a waste of money. And those are the
Mm,
things that I regret. My taste in movies have obviously changed. The two
yeah.
DVDs that watched most my senior year of high school were Paul Blart Mall Cop, because
Wow.
I was a fat kid and felt very deeply with the plight of Paul Blart. And I did watch King of Queens a lot. And I'm like
Hmm.
Doug, like Kevin James, I relate here. And Delta Farce, because I all through high school I was a big blue collar comedy tour fan.
Okay.
And yeah, I bought their movie where it was Bill Engvall, Larry the Cable Guy, in a Delta Force spoof.
Wow.
And I watched that way too
I
many
don't think I've ever heard of
times.
that film.
So like, don't watch. It's one of those things where it's like I don't regret not having that anymore. But it's one of those kinds of things where it's like tastes change over time. And there's some movies that I do buy that I'm like, I bought this because I appreciated it more than I liked it, and maybe someday when I
Yeah.
watch it again, I'll love it. Case in point, Raging Bull.
Yes.
When I
Yep.
watched that in high school, I hated it. My exact response in my
Ah.
cinema class was, "This is just two Italian guys yelling the F word at each other for 2 hours." Which, to
And
be fair,
you'd be,
that's accurate.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
still
yeah.
accurate.
I was gonna say you'd probably be sick
But
of hearing it.
well, and like rewatching when I did my series on Scorsese, something clicked in my head, and the
Mm,
representation clicked for me and realizing like, wow, he really speaks to me because I grew up
mm.
of Roman Catholic Italian American in the Northeast. And there's so many things about his films that click on a deeper level with me. And you
Yeah.
know what? I'm glad that I had it. And I get to the
Mm,
point where it's like if I rent something streaming multiple times or watch it on streaming multiple times, like I'm gonna buy this now. I'm
yeah.
gonna wind up watching this again.
Yeah.
So regrets the purging, but unfortunately a lot of that was because of necessity.
Necessary.
Some of it
Yeah.
wasn't, and
I
some
know
of
that
those
feeling.
movies, yeah.
And look, I totally agree. Like a lot of movies that I've seen and I've loved them the first time, and I watch them again, this is actually not that good, and vice versa. Like you give movies a second chance, even a third chance
Mm.
sometimes. Case in point for me, Lord of the Rings. I was not at all a Lord of the Rings fan. I struggled through them, but I watched them again recently. I had the 4K transfers, and that's why I think quality is a big factor in me enjoying a film. Is that I fucking adored the Lord of the Rings but when I watched
Mm.
them this year. Like they were amazing films, and I feel dumb for not liking them in the first place.
There's a level of appreciation now because what we do get in terms of big budgeted movies and
Mm,
watching Lord of the Rings, and you're just like, wow, like this stuff existed for the most part. Like a
yeah,
lot of it's practical and it's interesting and
yeah,
there's
it's
some like really good
impressive.
filmmaking here and just like
Absolutely.
and then I think about a lot of Marvel movies now and I'm like, you're in front of a green screen. You're in front of a green
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. I look. I totally get everyone's obsession, and anyone who says Lord of the Rings is their favorite trilogy or favorite movies, totally get it because yeah, yeah, I know you, but there's a few of us that we know together that have that same opinion. But watching it as an adult or 20 years later, for me, appreciating film and the filmmaking process more. And when you watch a film, when you become more educated about watching film, you it not only is the story just amazing, like it's a brilliant hero's journey, but just the filmmaking behind it and those practical effects that you said and the makeup, the scores in all three are just stunning. Like the 4Ks look incredible. Like it's an
Mhm.
incredible achievement in filmmaking. All three of those are just insanely brilliant from every aspect.
I'll say two things about Lord of the Rings before we move on to your next question.
Yeah.
One, that score is one of the most complex, interesting, dynamic scores ever created
Hmm.
because Howard Shore made like how many different sounding scores? Like for
Yeah.
any particular type of moment, is it dark and scary? Yeah, it's dark and scary.
Yeah.
So that score's dark and scary. The
Yeah.
Shire music is just beautiful. And
Yeah.
then there's few pieces of music and movies that are more triumphant than The Fellowship. That like you think Lord
Yeah.
of the Rings like dun dun da 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 and just like heroic. And two, how the hell did Return of the King not get nominated for cinematography? They didn't even get nominated.
Like,
Are you stupid?
I
Like,
think it had enough. I think like, man, this is enough for Return of the King. 11's enough.
is Andrew Lesnie's work on, I'm pretty sure he got nominated the first two movies.
Mm.
And then the one that won 11 Academy Awards
Yeah.
out of 11 Academy Awards
Yeah.
nominated for cinematography. Now, I know Australia's own Peter Weir's
Hmm.
Master and Commander did win for cinematography, which that movie's gorgeous. But the fact that Andrew Leslie didn't even get nominated makes absolutely no
Yeah.
sense to me. Boggles the mind. That
The
lighting of the torches sequence alone is one of the most beautifully shot in movies. And you're just like,
yeah.
you watch this, and we're like, no, no, I don't
Nah,
think
not good
so.
enough. The Academy,
Not
mate, the Academy are very good at boggling the mind with some of the decisions. Honestly, it's like
for sure.
yeah, I know they only get five choices in most categories, but come on, like yeah,
Come on.
and you know I can't wait till next season's everyone going, oh for Christ's sake, why didn't this get nominated? Why did that get? I mean, it's every year. Like everyone's got
At
pet
this
peeves, so
point,
that's the way it works.
Dune's winning everything. So be prepared,
Uh
people.
Nah, I don't think so. I look. I think Denny was ripped off from the first June. How he wasn't nominated for Best Director when that won every technical Oscar is fucking
So
absurd. I don't think the second one is as good as the first one, in my opinion, because the world building isn't as strong. But I think we've still got 4 months left in this year where Oscar bait films are going to come, that stuff's going to get released we don't even know is going to be released, and it happens every year.
That's always true.
They are going to win the Oscars, and Gladiator 2 is going to have a great shot at it. I really think I've got a lot of faith in Gladiator 2 for some reason. I think Ridley
Oh,
still got it in. Yeah, that's a passion project
the
for him.
climax of The Last Duel makes me
Mm,
still excited for
absolutely.
Gladiator 2
Yes.
because
Yeah,
he's still got that
absolutely.
because that was brutal.
That
And
was
I'm like,
amazing. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
I
really knows
want to
how to
see
do
more
the
Gladiators.
if you want to get anyone doing swords and sandals or sci-fi, Ridley Scott is a pretty damn good choice to have
Mhm.
back in your project.
So I have one hot take about the well, this really isn't a hot take. One thing I like to bitch about most about the Oscars, and it'll always be that George Miller didn't win Best Director for Mad
Mm,
Max Fury Road.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just
Who did win
like
that year?
I will not argue The Revenant is not a great film. It is a
Mm,
gorgeous film. It's
yes.
really well put together. But Fury Road is a masterpiece of filmmaking, and how you
Mm.
did not give Dr. George Miller that Australian grandpa with Madness is Madness. I remember sitting there watching the Oscars that night and flipping out. And I was just like, you gave it to
Really?
AGI the second time in a row?
I mean, the country appreciates your support, but I don't know. I think The Revenant is a very impressive piece of work as well.
It is.
That's a coin toss actually between those two.
So my biggest hot take is I don't like Spotlight. And if the
Oh,
director of Spotlight won, I would have flipped shit
yeah,
for sure.
how do you not like Spotlight? Spotlight's an amazing film.
That so to be fair, that is a film that's like top on my list. Like I should
Mm,
probably rewatch that. But the first time I watched it, I'm like, they underdid this movie. I felt like they
yeah,
were trying way too hard to be subtle.
yeah,
And I'm like, there's character reactions in this movie that don't make sense to me. How like they're still human beings. How did you not like freak out in this moment at this
yeah,
person? And I'm
yeah.
like, when Mark Ruffalo had his moment, I'm like, thank God somebody's showing some emotion here.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good
But
point.
anyway,
Yeah,
what's
we've
your next
digressed from the actual
question?
physical conversation. This is what me
Yeah.
and Shane do, guys. We just rant, and it's yeah,
Yes.
that's why we get along so well. What question was I up to? Anything that you're looking forward to being released, or is there anything that you want to get a 4K transfer to upgrade? Anything that you love that hasn't been upgraded, or anything that hasn't been released yet that you want?
So I'm down for any of Scorsese's movies to get 4K upgrades
Yep.
because I need them upgraded. And his films are so sharp, and I just want to
Yeah.
have so many of them on 4K. There's a realm
Silence would be a
of
great 4K. I don't know if Silence is in 4K, but that would be stunning in 4K.
which that one I do have on DVD, and that is one
Mm,
that I think would be worth upgrading. Such a
mm.
gorgeous film. I hope Killers of the Flower Moon
Oh,
winds up on
oh, do you want me to
physical.
show you something? I have a Killers of the Flower Moon 4K because you can get it in Italy. It's an
We'll take
Italian
a look at that
release.
later.
Yes.
There's certain anime that I've
Mm,
watched in the past couple of years that I think would be so cool because they're so hard to find on physical media. Vampire Hunter D,
okay.
Ninja Scroll, and Angel Egg are all really awesome anime from like the 80s and 90s that I
Okay.
think would be so cool to get 4Ks for. Things I'm looking forward to. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm gonna keep saying it. Hundreds of Beavers gets a Criterion Collection release because that
Wouldn't
makes
that be
so much
amazing? That'd be amazing.
sense. I want to see how creative the cover that they put on it's
I
gonna
wouldn't
be.
be surprised if it got one. Honestly, I would not be surprised if it got a Criterion.
No,
It's that type
especially
of film.
at this point. I would love because like I'll buy documentaries and stuff like that too if I
Okay.
really love it. Oh, that's one that I need to get upgraded is The Last Waltz.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I
Yep.
Scorsese's The Band
Hmm.
concert, so great. But I want a beautiful physical media release, and I don't. I think this came out. I want that Ennio Morricone
Oh, yeah.
documentary, which
Yep.
I think did get one earlier this year. I still need to
Mm.
get it. Made in England, the Powell and
Oh,
Pressburger
yeah.
film that just came out.
Yep.
So that's one I'm definitely looking forward to getting. I'm trying to think. I would like them to release some upgraded horror
Mm.
collections. And what brought it to my mind is I know you just got the Ring
Yep.
collection. I would love for them to have like an updated like Halloween collection because I feel like that would be the only way I'd go out and like
You need
buy
to
at
get
this
Screen
point.
Factory.
I remember.
Screen Factory Hall have all the first five on
Okay.
4K. Have you checked them? And they are stunning
So
transfers. They're beautiful.
so that is one thing I need to do better is I've gotten so used to all of my movie buying being from Prince and Record Exchange,
Yep.
used to be Best Buy. For all those that are listening, I am flipping off Best Buy at this point because they go, oh, hell, Amazon and Criterion.
Yep.
I need to look, I need to save up some money and like actually do some dives into Kino Lorber
Make the
to,
mate. Kino Lorber
yep.
makes such great movies.
So the different other companies that are selling physical media, I need to really take a dive into.
Yeah, there's a
So those
lot.
things that I need to.
There is a
Mhm.
lot of. There's a lot. I mean, people say. I mean, I was saying this earlier to someone today, but people are decrying or in the streets ringing their bells saying physical media is dying. It really isn't. Like there's more companies making it now than there ever has been, and it's just becoming more
You're
niche.
just
It's
gonna,
not mainstream.
well, yeah, and you're gonna have to pay. Like
We already are. We
that's
already
also
are.
the thing.
We already
Because that's the
are.
thing. Because me being cheap, and then like if I'm gonna get one of these, like dive into these smaller companies, I'm gonna have to acknowledge that to
Hmm.
support them, I'm going to have to pay more. Like, I
And
don't. Well, yeah. I if you buy Criterion outside of their Criterion
oh
sale, I
yeah,
don't know what's wrong with you.
yeah. But
To
again,
be
Kino Lorber
honest.
have half price sales every year. I mean,
Yep.
I sent one of those to Foster a while back because they won't send to Australia. They won't ship to Australia, which pisses me off because I love Kino. But Vinegar Syndrome sent to Australia. There's Arrow. I mean, Arrow makes some of their 4Ks are
Yep.
spectacular. I'd really recommend checking them out.
Yeah,
These are not paid advertisements.
I do have a couple of Arrow releases, and I'm trying to think
Hmm.
which ones they are. I feel like I'm looking at my collection. I'm trying to
I actually thought I
think if my
saw a few
animator
before.
one.
You've got one behind you on
Yeah,
your
because
right. On your right, just there's an arrow. That's a Blu-ray. It's in between a blue one. I can't read the actual title. No, on your is that your right or maybe it's your other side?
so this is my actual right.
Yes. Just right. Yeah, just put your hand up one. Put your hand up one shelf, and it's right there. That's it. To your
Oh
yep.
yeah,
That.
that's the bird and the crystal plumage.
Oh,
My one of my Dario Argento films.
yeah.
Yes, so I'm pretty sure I have a couple of his that are Arrow releases, which makes
Yes.
a lot of sense.
I have four if he's in the post, and that was the fifth one that I haven't gotten. All on 4K, actually.
I have Fear and Desire from Kubrick on Kino Classic, and
Oh,
that's a really and like that has bonus short films from Kubrick on it, which made me
that would
really
be cool.
happy. So like those kinds of releases, like those are cool. So I need to do a better job with them. But so like my own personal like checking those kinds of things out. But no, I think upgrading some of those like classics into 4K if I can find them because I would love well, they're still making that and that's the tricky thing. Some of these franchises are just never gonna die. Keep making
No,
more of
no,
them.
they won't. No. And sadly, though, it is sad.
So
It's like when a TV show goes for 12 years, it's like just fucking end already. Like, it's all you want, right?
this was done after like 4 seasons. Like, I'm gonna probably make some people upset, but stuff like The Simpsons and Family Guy, like, how many more
Yes. Yeah.
seasons do you need? And like,
Yeah.
shot The Simpsons have been on for what 36 seasons at this point. As I say that, I will watch every season of South Park they release just for
But South
the.
Park is all, mate. South Park is one of the. I don't get to watch it here because it's on Paramount. I'm not paying for Paramount. Eat shit, Paramount. Unless you want to, unless you want to give it to
Well,
me
they
for free,
are right
Paramount, then
now,
I will
and
be a corporate shill for you. Like, but honestly, South Park though isn't it? It's an astonishing show. I actually have the first 25 seasons. They released each on a set of Blu-rays. There's I think 5 seasons at a time box set, and I have that in my eBay card at the moment. But that's $200, and I just can't justify that right now to get South Park. And yeah, as
yeah,
much as
I
I'd want
don't.
to.
I so I have defunct pieces to my collection because mostly I have movies. I used to have a ton of concert DVDs And in the purges at points in my life, I got rid of all of them, which upsets me now because I wish I didn't get rid of them. I used to
Mm.
have an extensive WWE
Ah,
physical media collection. It was impressive, but that was when we got thrown out and I needed to condense stuff.
yeah.
I sold all of them to FYE for a
Um,
lot less money than I probably could have gotten, but I was in a crunch. And then I did used to have some TV on, because like I used to have all of Alias, all of Lost, because
oh
those are two
yeah,
of my
yeah,
favorite shows of all time. I used to have some of
yeah.
South Park.
Nice.
I didn't get very far getting the DVDs for the seasons, but I did have some of that. Like I had Firefly, which isn't a
Hmm.
big
Yep.
sell because it's like one season, so
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah.
there. But yeah, so I used to have TV, I used to have concerts, and I more concerts because I still have a couple like, oh, I really want to get Stop Making Sense, that
Yes.
the
I've seen that
the
everywhere
Talking
lately.
Heads, directed
Mm.
by, why am I blanking on his name? Who directed, Jonathan Demme directed that film. I saw
Mm.
that when they put
Yes.
that in
So after the
theater in
okay.
IMAX. Oh, was it Dolby? It might have been Dolby. It was so good. But yeah, so those are some of my
Mm.
defunct pieces of my collection that I used to really go into. I had every
Yep.
single WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble on physical media for like the first 25 years of both of those shows, all four of those shows.
They might be worth
But
something now.
now
Would they be worth anything now, you think? Or
it probably would have, but to be honest, and this is I'm sorry to say this on a physical media show, I do pay for Peacock and that has WWE
yep.
Network. So like that made that decision a
Yep.
lot easier because I could just pop
Yeah,
that
okay.
on and watch it whenever. That might be
Mhm.
shifting to Netflix. I don't know because
Oh,
WWE starting a
really?
relationship with Netflix in January. So that'll be interesting.
Oh,
But no, so
Netflix
I
can
do
eat a
kind of
bunch
miss.
of shit
I
too.
used to watch wrestling so much. Like my
Yeah.
grandparents would like come in and I'm sitting there watching my wrestling. But anyway,
I've got a couple of friends who are into the wrestling, and we used to just give them so much shit in high school and college about it, watching
it's
wrestling.
all it's all scripted, just like all of your other shows. So leave us
Yeah,
alone.
exactly. Well, that's a fair argument. Absolutely. Oiled up,
Yep.
muscly dudes, and you go,
It's like,
boys.
it's dead. You know it's fake, right? Yes, because they'd be dead.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
was
The
real.
the broken spines and yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some of them still get that if it is
Mm,
scripted, but
yeah.
yes, I know. And you can check out my wrestling show that I do on
Yeah,
the
well, look,
SPN
mate,
Free
we'll plug all
Podcasting Network.
400 of your shows later. Plug them.
All
Um,
400 of them.
you've kind of answered all of my questions as we travel along the way, pretty much. And I guess my last one is and I probably am knowing the answer by the conversation we've had, but does packaging influence what you collect? I assume you don't care about steel books and slipcovers too much or collector's edition
Not
things.
too much. Some of them get my attention. Some of them are cool. Like upgraded a couple because they were like the steel books were really cool. Or like I spent the extra money to get a 4K because I really like the steel
Hmm.
book. Like I mentioned, like the second I found out that 2001: A Space Odyssey was getting a 4K steel book,
Yeah,
I'm like I
that's a
can't
must.
not buy that. It's like I do have
Yeah.
a Kubrick collection on Blu-ray. So like I
Hmm.
have that movie already, but I'm
Yeah, yeah.
like I can't not buy this.
That's fair.
And then
That's a good
like I mentioned
choice.
the Blade Runner one. Slip covers, honestly, I dislike. And this is gonna
Yeah.
sound terrible, but because of like trying to fit them, like
No,
just
it doesn't
just a
sound terrible
little
at all.
extra space that they take up kind of annoys me.
Mm,
So I don't
mm.
usually keep a lot of the slip covers for stuff. But, some of them are cool enough for me to care about, but it's not something that I really care that much about.
You don't seek out. Yeah, that's becoming a theme in the people I've spoken about. But I have seen plenty of people who really seek out slipcovers. Oh, I come with a slipcover; it's amazing. And but most people that I've spoken to so far are like me. Is that I actually took all my slipcovers off once upon a time purely for the space. And then I'm like,
Yep.
and then they're just sitting in a drawer. But I'm like, oh, I just ended up putting them back on and putting them on the shelf anyway. So it kind of helps protect the cover and whatnot. So
I think the coolest slipcover that I did have was Terminator.
oh yeah,
And it was like that holographic thing where if you turned it, it was Arnold's
yeah,
face, and then
yeah.
it
T
was
T 2000.
the actual machine version of his face, and it's just like
Right.
it's pretty cool. But most of them, I'm like, no, I get rid of the slipcovers.
There's a
So
company in Australia that do that with Via Vision and with imprint stuff. They release lenticular covers, and I have a few of those. I have a good one. There's a Wes Craven box set that's like I think it's like really the cover of The People Under the Stairs, and it looks fantastic. Like it does actually look pretty cool. But I don't know if it's worth the extra cost other than the standard editions that they release. But it's a really cool box set and some pretty fun movies inside too. Actually, Wes Craven did good stuff. So yeah, all right. Well, look, thanks for being on the show, Shane. I'm going to give you a chance to plug all your
absolutely.
stuff. Like, I really appreciate you sharing your time, man, and hopefully you had some fun. I know I had some fun, and I hope our listeners have had some
Honestly,
fun.
Adam, I could talk about movies with you for forever, so
Mm,
I always appreciate to chat about them.
yeah, we could go for another 2 hours for
Okay.
sure. So yeah,
Uh,
plug everything. Firstly, though, before you do, I'm going to plug our show that we do
yes.
together. Every month we do a show called The Cinematic Wasteland, where we delve into the history of cinema. That's a podcast you can get on Spotify. I'm not sure if it's on iTunes, but that's a lot of fun between me, Shane, and another guy called Luke. And that's, yeah, once a month. Fantastic show. Love being on that. So, Shane, plug away anything and everything that you do. Spin,
So
spin everyone
the
out with how
most
much you do.
important thing, yes, the most important thing that I do is my YouTube channel that I've had for 8 years,
Mhm.
the Wasteland Reviewer YouTube channel. I review basically any new movies that I can get my hands on which I try very hard to try to get to as many of them as possible. I've sporadically done like television reviews and book reviews and stuff like
Mhm.
that, so I do have some of that on there. I have my 3 weekly shows on my YouTube channel. I have Lost in the Wasteland, my interview show, which Adam is one of my most recurring guests for
I'm
that.
always
I
on there.
have my which I'm always looking for people. So if you're listening to this and love to
Yes.
talk about movies and want to talk about what you love about movies, message me on Instagram, which I'll
Yeah,
get to
please
that in a
do.
minute.
Or message me
I
and I can
have
put you in
my
touch with Shane too. That'd be great.
absolutely Wasteland Talks, which is my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. I have a bunch of like motifs and themes for episodes that I cycle through. They basically could be anything, so that's fun. And probably my favorite show is my Welcome to the Wasteland, where I take a deep
Yeah.
dive into a director week by week. By but when this episode comes out, I'll only have a couple of months left of John Ford, and it'll
Mm.
finally be done. But I will be
Mm.
highlighting Wes Anderson, and then somebody new
Who
after my
knows? Yeah.
tournament that I'm doing on Instagram is done. My Instagram page, where I plug a lot of things, it's the easiest place to contact me is the Wasteland Reviewer on Instagram. It's a public Instagram. I don't have any other like personal social media. I'm just,
Mm.
whoring out all of my stuff that I do on all my social media.
That's
I
what it's
do
for.
daily reels. Yeah. I do daily reels that I used to do on TikTok. But
Mm.
TikTok pissed me off, so I stopped using it. So you can check out those. I write for Sif Pop. I'm a staff writer, whatever the hell that means.
I
But
mean, you
I
get
do
paid.
a lot of
No.
elevated title, no extra pay. Sounds about right in 2024, at least here in the United States for sure.
Yeah.
But I do I do a lot of reviews for them each month, and a lot of them are like the most random stuff that nobody else wants to watch. And I do a monthly article called The Short List. So I highlight short
Yep.
films, which I gotta work on this weekend and next weekend for this coming month. It's basically I highlight 5 short films that are
Okay.
newer releases.
Mm.
And then I write for buythemovies.com, which basically is I have a weekly article where I highlight a movie, older film that's on a streaming service to go check out. I write for Knock on Wood Films, our buddy Rowan, his website,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
I do a monthly article called Lessons from the Wasteland, which I absolutely
Mm.
love to do, where
Mm.
I basically pick a topic and highlight 5 films that I feel like it'll be long takes or a specific genre. I just did a back-to-back horror and modern horror series, which was cool, or
Oh yeah.
highlighting a director. I wrote a lot for my Scorsese one, a lot. And then I have my website, which is relatively new this year. I have weekly themed articles. The first, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd of each month, there's a new article. I do one where like I highlight my top 5 films from a particular year, and I'm working backwards. I'm writing my 2017 one right now, remembering Blade
Mhm.
Runner 2049 and a bunch of other articles. I do write reviews on that site too, and a weekly, just like, here's all the shit that I watched this week that are older movies that, hey, I like them. Maybe you will too. And then I have my podcasts, which I'm on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. So shameless plugs all around for the
Yes. Yeah.
Wasteland retrospective that I do every week. And I'm not on it every week, but I have my wrestling podcast with my friend Diana, and then my streaming Wasteland, which is just highlighting a couple films on streaming for you to check out. And I'll be having a new show, the Wasteland
Oh,
Watch, was
what?
coming out around the same time this is, where it's literally like I randomly select something from my 8,000 plus movie watch list, and whatever the hell
Wow.
it is, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And then Adam mentioned Cinematic Wasteland, and I also have Wasteland Vintage Roadshow, which is literally my excuse each month for me to rewatch one of my favorite movies and then talk to somebody about it. I think that's it. I'm not insane. You are.
So when I said Shane does a lot of shit, tell me I was lying. Like, honest to God, what he was
And
plugging went longer
somehow
than
I
our
have a
actual
full time job.
conversation. And he has a full-time job, and he watches 1,000 movies a year, listens to podcasts. I don't know. He listens to music. He reads books. How the fuck? We said at the top of the show, he has a time machine. There's no way that Shane doesn't have a DeLorean in his basement, or something is going on. For you to,
It just might be a 20-year-old Acura. You don't know.
it might be. If you got a dog called Einstein, then it's on. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. I hope you had fun, because that was a lot of fun for me. If you enjoyed the episode, give us a follow at KerbSide Collections on Instagram. And if you are a collector and would like to be on the show, send me a DM. I'd love to have you on on the show and learn all about your collections as well. Until next time, thanks for listening to KerbSide Collections.